Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne, and recently I've done some videos talking about some of my pet peeves and least favorite things in character design. I have a general video as well as one specifically about anime, and today I'm going to be tackling that same concept with video games. Now first things first, have you seen this man before? He's got like brown hair and like a 5 o'clock shadow, and he's sort of average height, slightly athletic build. He's probably like got kind of a dad energy, and if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I've seen that guy as a protagonist in every video game, that's because that's the protagonist of every video game. I mean, not literally, of course, but one of my least favorite tropes in video games is the like overuse of this particular type of guy. I can think right off the top of my head some of the like most preeminent AAA games over the last few years all have a character who looks like this, who is the main guy, the main protagonist, and I just think it's getting so boring and bland. I mean, it genuinely seems like there's so many similarities that when people make fan art for some of these characters, it's hard to tell which one is which. And honestly, the only way that they differentiate like different time periods is instead of having a t-shirt under their overcoat or jacket, they'll have a button up under their overcoat or jacket. And I don't know, man. I mean, they're all like holding a gun on the cover art, and it's just too samey. It makes it less interesting to be them, and honestly I just don't understand why you would do that in a medium like video games, where you can make people look like anything, like, and you can make roles that are like wildly different than the norm. Like why people would fall in such a rut. I've also noticed it's very common for them to have like a very like subdued color palette. Like usually the only colors they're really allowed to wear is like a dark desaturated green or a dark desaturated grayish color or a dark desaturated beige, which I think is a huge waste, because I mean, look, Hawaiian shirts are out there, and I don't think they're being utilized. I think we need more color, more like 80s puffer jackets, something, I don't know. Even worse than the fact that they all kind of look the same is the fact that their personalities only range from a pretty narrow margin. Either they're like a snarky and sarcastic dad type, or a like angsty protective dad type. And like sometimes the character arc will just take the guy from one side to the other, and that's it. Like there's not a lot there to like reach into and really establish themselves as a memorable character that you'll take with you forever. To be clear, they're not always literally dads, but oftentimes they're put into a sort of fatherly role, especially by the end. So that's why I'm calling him the brown hair dad guy. This next one isn't just contained to video games, but there was a video game that specifically brought this irritation out of me, and that was The Witcher. There are a few female characters in The Witcher who are very important to the story, and for some reason, even though this game is very clearly like inspired by like a sort of medieval setting, like there's very much the vibe of not having plumbing, very much the vibe of not, we're at a certain time period, all the girls are wearing like corsets and dresses and stuff. And yet, for some reason, Triss and Yennefer, two of the female characters, are rocking makeup looks from about 2009, I would say. Like, this isn't just a matter of them having access to, makeup that maybe wasn't like popular or socially acceptable or possible in the medieval era. Like, that's one thing. It's another thing for it to be like noticeably from like the time at which Britney Spears' Toxic has been out for a few years. Like, I swear, the smoky eye on Triss makes it look like she's seen a Michelle Phan YouTube tutorial and that's how she's applied it. Like, I don't know why this bugs me so much, but it really drives me crazy. Like, I don't understand it. Interestingly, I even feel like the way that the girls are modeled, or actually everyone is modeled, is specifically really modern feeling. And I think I would really love to see a game that's sort of pseudo set back in time to have like the same beauty standards or like facial proportions of the like women that were painted at the time and the men that were painted at the time. I just think that would be so fun. And I know this is a fantasy game with magic and witchers and like demons and like all kinds of stuff, and you would think if I can suspend my disbelief to that, I could suspend my disbelief to Yennefer and Triss rocking smoky eyes as if they are VIP members at Sephora, but for some reason I just can't. This next pet peeve might be a bit of an unpopular opinion. I actually don't know how most people feel about this, but honestly, I'm starting to feel like using actual actors and face tracking in order to make your characters might be becoming a bit of a crutch in the AAA gaming industry. One of the biggest problems with this is that this type of face tracking looks really fantastic when your characters are in a neutral, resting face position, but even with technology coming as far as it has, it seems to come apart when you need it to be working the most. When people are emoting the most, showing their teeth, scrunching up their eyes, this is often where the technology starts to falter and it becomes less and less believable. Whereas if you had a character who was more stylized, who wasn't quite so close to a human face, you can push their expression a lot more, and it can actually make it look more convincing within its own style than the hyper realistic scans of actors' faces. Whenever we create a human mask, something very like hyper realistic that looks like a human face, anytime there's any kind of discrepancy, something that doesn't look right, it's immediately going to dive into the uncanny valley and become really like uncomfortable and scary and not pleasant to look at. And when you go back through games that have predominantly used this as a feature in their game, it makes their longevity sort of like get shaved down a lot just because of those visuals. When you look at something like Beyond Two Souls, which was one of the earlier examples of using this, honestly, like the images just look completely wrong. And even Until Dawn, which isn't that old of a game, compared to something like Death Stranding or Detroit, it starts to look really funky and weird, and I'm worried that that's going to keep happening to every game every single time that the technology is refined and we get used to it looking better and better. And it would be really sad if a game like Detroit or Death Stranding was ruined because of just the future not being future-proof to people's visual expectations. I feel like some degree of stylization kind of inoculates you against that. Like Resident Evil 4 is literally 10 years older than Until Dawn, and I feel like it's holding up better already. But honestly, even when the technology advances so far that it's literally indecipherable from a real human actor, I don't know if that would be better for video games. Maybe it's just my love for stylization, but I feel like game characters whose whole like face, body, everything are designed by an artist versus someone who was scanned in and then had to be dressed essentially like an actor on a set. I feel like the first is always going to stick with you more and feel more unique and special, even if it's less realistic or less convincingly like animated, but maybe that's just me. This next pet peeve of mine is kind of a weird one, and this is pretty niche. I think I'm one of the only people who are probably bothered by this, but there's a specific way that video games sometimes render elves, like in fantasy games like Elder Scrolls or World of Warcraft, that just, it really bugs me, like just aesthetically. I don't think there's anything wrong with it from a character design perspective, so like take that with a grain of salt, but I really hate when they make elves by just taking a normal human, turning their skin blue, and then making their whole face look just like you took the liquefy tool and just angled everything up and like scrunched their face in, and I don't know, like they elongate their body to the point where it's actually kind of like more creepypasta like, especially because I think this is specifically bothers me because I used to really love fantasy novels, and I always remember the elves being described as like these ethereal androgynous beauties who are like tall and slender, and then when I see them in video games they look so scary and so sharp, and I don't know, there's just like a disconnect there. Like I would love to see like a beautiful androgynous elf guy who doesn't look like this. This is mainly a problem, like I said, with like the classic high fantasy type video games. I also get particularly annoyed because almost all of the dudes, like the dude elf types, like their hair looks so greasy and I don't know why. Like this is across multiple different like video game titles, and they'll have their hair pulled back and it just looks so greasy, and I'm like, I don't really get it. Like why do they look like they have not showered in 100 years? I mean, maybe it's because they're, you know, thousands of years old and it just seems like a pain, but yeah, I don't know what it is specifically that bothers me so much about this. This is like a very personal issue of mine. I don't think most people are even bothered by this, but it's one of those things that like I saw it in one too many games and it just started to really bug me because truthfully, I don't know if it's because I was raised on so much anime, but I would really like to see like more like pretty faced male characters, and I feel like the elves or elf type characters in fantasies could easily be that, but they like never are. They look absolutely like ghoulish, I guess. Like there's something about them that just looks so stretched out and weird. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me make my strange complaints about various different video game character design trends. Please let me know what your #1 character design like pet peeve is in video games. And I hope I didn't upset anyone by including any games that you like in here, because literally like all of the games that are in here because I had played and liked them. So these are all just me like nitpicking and stuff that I actually am really fond of. Thank you so much for watching till the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much to my patrons, including Nintendo Girl Artworks, Munch Munch McGee, Jess Hranick, Matilda Minchin, Golden Castles, Middle Z, Al Kappa, Winkus Wonkus, Aki, Zero Expectations, Lily Allure, The Expressive Poker Face, Morrissey, Axolotl, Big McLarge Huge, Chris Draws, Subaki, Snow White, The Becky, Liliana Hammond, Mia Lavali, Angel File, Q Musgrove, Nicole Ludwak, Nicolette Queen, Rainwater Pearls, Ice Cream Pal, Best Kaiju, Lion, Ilaria Louie, Nora Cornelison, Joseph Copel, Cola, Your Boy ST, JJ Jade, and of course, Blah Blah Blah.